What is up, homies? My name is Felix, and I am here back again with another video for you all today. And this one is going to be inside of FL Studio, where I am going to be showing you guys all how to make a lo-fi beat in FL. And I think this should be a pretty helpful video for a lot of you guys. I've actually seen a bunch of you guys saying that you switch from LMS to FL Studio, which is super dope. So I'll have some more FL videos coming soon. I'll have some more LMS videos coming soon. All types of videos, more of them coming soon. So yeah, before we get into this video, you guys should check out my Instagram and my SoundCloud, which will both be down in the description below, along with the playlist of songs I've produced, my Discord, all that stuff down there. And also, some new music produced by me actually just dropped. It's by an artist by the name of Don Uzi, who you guys might know or might not know. But 3 of the 6 songs on his EP called Evolve are produced by me, and you guys should go check it out. I'll leave a link down in the description below. And yeah, now let's get into this video. Alright, so as you can see, here we are in FL Studio, and I'm about to get started on this lo-fi beat for today's video. So the first thing that's going to be very important for this video is your sound selection. And, you know, with any beat, sound selection is very important. But for this one particularly, you want to have like some old school / lo-fi drum sounds. So if you go into Google and you just search up like free old school hip hop drum kit, or you search up like free lo-fi drum kit, anything like that, anything of the sort, and I'm sure you'll find a good kit that you can use there. So I'm gonna pick some drum sounds really quick, and then I'll get back to you guys. Alright, so for now I just picked these 4 drum sounds, and probably I'm only gonna use 3 of them, to be honest. I have this kick here, I have these 2 snares, and then I have this hi-hat. And everybody does lo-fi beats differently. Some people like to have their drums really complicated, but for the most part, you want your drums to be pretty simple. I like to keep my drums pretty simple with lo-fi beats, and then you have the sample, or you know, the melody that you make, be kind of more complicated to fill up that kind of lack of space, I guess you could say. Also, one thing I should mention is that you want your BPM to be around like 90-ish. You can do a little higher, a little slower if you want, you know, whatever sounds good to your ear, but I like to keep it around, you know, 90, 92-ish. So I'm gonna put it on 92 for this one. And so now the drum pattern is super simple. So with your snare pattern, you want to just put 4 in here like this, where the start of the orange colored columns are, and basically this is the snare or clap pattern that you're going to use for any beat that's in half speed rather than full speed. So yeah, now that we have that, what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the hi-hat, and we're just going to do fill each 2 steps. And now it's already going to sound a little bit like a lo-fi beat. So I'm going to delete this snare 15 because I like the 14 one better. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the snare, hit K, and then bring the velocities up. And you cannot actually do that if you're on FL12, I believe. So what you do is you just go into piano roll, and then you go to the velocity and turn them all up. And now for the most important part, the part that gives your beat its bounce, you're going to put in the kicks. So you obviously want to have 2 kicks here and here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the piano roll. And when you think of like an old school / boom bap / lo-fi kind of drum pattern, normally in your head what you're going to hear is like boom, 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 or like boom, boom, something like that, something along those lines, you know. So that's what I'm going to recreate, because I hear that in my head, and now I'm going to put it onto the screen basically. So what I'm going to do is play it, and right there is where the ba-boom is going to be. So basically I'm just going to click that in. And as you can hear, those kicks sound like they're a little bit like too spaced apart. Like it's not exactly the way that you and me are thinking it should sound. So what you gotta do is hover over this black bar and go up on the scroll wheel to zoom in. And now we're just gonna take this and we're gonna move it over. And now this is gonna have that sound that you want. As you can hear, now it's the kind of pattern that it should be. So we're gonna take these and put them up. And now we're gonna do this same thing over here. Just drag it over. I just did control and then I did shift and clicked it over. And so now this is going to repeat, but what I want to do is put just 1 here. So yeah, pretty standard old school hip hop kind of drum pattern. Now what I'm going to do is X out of here. I'm going to go into the kick, and as you can see and hear, it's not really hitting the way it should. So what I'm going to do is go into this thing and then do boost, and only do this if you have a soft clipper on your master, which is the most important thing, and this is what you need to do with all of your beats. Basically, you go to your master track, you click one of the slots, you just click soft clipper, and then you don't do anything else. Then you're done. And now you can make your beat, and you can make all your drums slap. You can crank up all the volumes, and it's not going to destroy your speakers, it's not going to destroy your headphones, and you'll be good to go. So now this kick is going to slap a lot harder. So I think that sounds super nice. Sometimes simpler is better. One thing that you can do that I see a lot of people do is turn up the swing a little bit, and that adds like something, I don't know, I don't usually do that. But what I do with my hi-hats to get a similar kind of bounce or swing, I guess, is this, and it can be done one of 2 ways. The first way is you can go into your piano roll, you can zoom in, and you can do Control A, and now you can hold down on Alt, and then just drag this over like a teensy bit. And and that just adds like a little bit of swing, I guess, or you know, whatever the word that you want to describe it is. But another way that you can do that is you can go click on the actual sound sample, click on this little wrench, and then turn the shift up, and that basically does the same thing. And that's what I usually do with my hi-hats. And then the last thing that you should do with your hi-hats is go into the piano roll and then look at every other note and just turn it down a little bit like this. And now this is gonna add, you know, some extra bounce, a little bit of an extra humanized feel, and now it's gonna sound like this. Another thing that I'll do with lo-fi beats sometimes is actually record the snares and the kicks myself instead of clicking them in. And then once I do that, I won't quantize it so that, you know, it gives it more of a human feel as well. And this is basically like the same thing that Jay Dilla did with all of his tracks. He would never quantize anything. He would always have it, you know, just be the way that he played it. And basically the way you do that is I can cut this, go in here to the piano roll, and make sure that you have a MIDI keyboard set up. So you just go to options, you go to MIDI settings, and then hook up your stuff here. And then now you're gonna go up to this little record thing at the top, and make sure on your keyboard you find middle C, so it's going to sound like this. It's just going to be the original sample noise, and once you know where that is, just basically put your finger on that and then hit notes in automation, and then just hit your spacebar and it'll record wherever you play the snare in. So yeah, as you can see, it recorded where I clicked in the snares, and what you can do here is just move this a little bit back, because if anything, you want your notes to hit after the line and not before it, because if it's before it, it'll sound really off, but if it's after it, it'll kind of give it like a human feel. So this is how it sounds now. So yeah, if you like the sound of that, you can do that way as well, and that'll just give it, you know, some extra razzle dazzle, some extra pizzazz. Also, if when you hit the spacebar, you don't have like a countdown, like that little clicking noise, you can just click this thing. It's like a 3, 2, 1, and that'll give you the 3, 2, 1 countdown before you start recording, and that's good for, you know, whether you're recording on piano or whether you're recording, you know, stuff like this as well. And that just sets the tempo for you before you start to record, so you're not like off beat or anything like that. And what I think I'm going to do here is just add an extra snare at the end like this. So yeah, I think that sounds pretty nice so far. You should always remember that your beats don't need to be super complicated. Sometimes, you know, simplicity is better. Less is more, as they sometimes say. So what I'm going to do now is actually pull in a piano plugin, because a lot of times these beats are actually sampled. So they'll take a sample from another song, like they'll sample a guitar, piano, you know, whatever they choose. But what I'm going to do is actually record my own sample, you know, so I don't get copyrighted or anything of the sort. Alright, so I just loaded up this Mini Grand plugin, and this plugin's like 15 bucks, I think, and it's by the same people who make Expand and the same people who make Vacuum Pro and a couple other really great cheap VSTs as well. So yeah, you know, they're a trusty manufacturer of VSTs. And one thing that I'm going to be doing differently in this video is actually playing / recording the piano pattern, because usually what I'll do is I'll click it in, but for this one I think I'm going to, you know, tickle the ivories a little bit and, you know, see what I can come up with. And the way that I'm going to do that is essentially the same way that I did the snare. Go into the piano roll, drag this to the beginning, hit record, notes, and now I'm going to get to making this little piano pattern. Alright, so I just recorded this little pattern here. It's not perfect. There's a couple things that I'm going to need to quantize and a couple things that I'll need to mess with a little bit. But for now, I think it's a good basis to start with. So what I'm going to do is, you know, just zoom in here, and then I'm going to do Control, Select, and now drag this over. And now I'm going to, you know, manually strum these. And there is actually a command to strum chords. You can do Alt and then S, and then, you know, adjust this thing to adjust the strength. But that only works when all of your chords are lined up perfectly, and these ones aren't because I played them myself. So when you play chords and you play melodies yourself, you kind of just have to manually adjust it most of the time. Alright, so I just went in and adjusted these chords so that they're a little bit more matched up with the lines. They're not as off and, you know, weird sounding. And then I also adjusted, you know, the little top melody notes as well. And now what I'm going to do is take all these bottom notes by hitting Control and then Shift at the same time, and then selecting them, and then I'm just going to do Shift, click to the side, and now just do Control and then down on your, you know, little directional pad. And now I'm going to adjust the volumes so that they're a little bit more even. And now this is just going to add some bass notes to these chords to make them a little bit more fuller. And And now what I think I'm going to do with this melody is go in and kind of adjust the volumes and also add a couple more notes for the top melody just to kind of give it some more bounce and, you know, add some more, you know, pizzazz to it. Alright, so I just added a little bit to this top melody and now it sounds like this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to pitch this down a little bit. So I think we pretty much have the melody done. Now what I'm actually going to do is pull up Citrus. And inside of Citrus is where we're going to make the bass for this beat. So I'm going to show you guys a little cool little tip on making a sub bass. So what you do in Citrus is you click on this little drop down thing, you go to presets, you go to default, and now you turn this to 1, you go to main, and then you turn this pitch thing all the way down. And now this is going to be, you know, a sub bass. And you won't be able to hear that if you don't have headphones on. But if you do have headphones on or speakers, you probably heard that, and it's a nice little sub bass. But if you want to spice it up even a little bit more, what you can do is adjust these knobs. And this one, if you turn it up, makes it kind of a square wave. This one, it makes it kind of a saw wave. This one will make it kind of like a wiggly thing. You just basically have to play around with the knobs and get, you know, the sound that you like. So I think this will sound good. I'll probably have to make a couple changes here and there, but either way, I think it's alright for now. And basically we can just X out of this, and we can go in here, copy these bass notes, do Control C, and now we can go into Citrus and do Control V, and turn it all the way up, and we can probably pitch this up too. And now we have a little bit of a bass going on. And you can even put the bass up there if you want. I think I'm going to leave it down here. It just sounds a little bit deeper and, you know, a little bit more emotional, I guess. And another thing I'm going to do, since I don't want these playing the whole time, is just kind of match them up with the kicks a little bit. And I think I'm going to drag this so it ends like a little bit after the snare. And then I'm going to make a little bit of a bounce with this, so I'm going to put it here and then put it here. And then, as I said, I'm going to match it up with a kick, so the kick hits right here, so I'm going to put one here. And then I'm also going to put one where the snare hits, and then I'm going to basically just kind of copy the same pattern over and over with, you know, a couple little, you know, variations here and there. Alright, so we have the bass looking like this now, and what I'm going to do is just go click all these little rectangles, and then do Control L, and now this assigns everything to a mixer track, and I'm going to go into this mini grand, the little piano first, and, you know, solo it by right clicking on the little circle. And now I'm going to add a little bit of lo-fi effects onto this piano. So I'm going to go and add OTT, which is a compressor, and it's a really nice compressor. It makes things like super duper compressed, but you can also, you know, turn it down kind of. Alright, so I think that gives it a nice effect, and now I'm going to put this to the top, and now bring in some reverb. And then can't forget to make it more stereo as well. And honestly, I think that's all we really need to do for this piano, because the other kind of lo-fi effects I'm going to add onto the master track so that they, you know, make everything sound kind of lo-fi. But the one thing that I'm going to do here with this is I'm going to click this little circle down here, and this is going to select record for this track here. And now I'm going to hit Alt and then R, and then I'll bring up this little thing, and this is basically going to render your mixer track. So I'm just going to do start like this. And now if we go into our song editor, this little piano is right here. And we can cut off the end because we don't need that. And now we have our piano here. And this is a really good way to minimize your CPU usage when you're using a lot of plugins and stuff. And also it's a really good way to take a sample that you have and chop it and, you know, make some nice lo-fi sounding kind of chops. So I'm going to actually go right click and now do replace and then delete. And don't worry, it's not going to get rid of your MIDI pattern. Your MIDI pattern is going to stay there in case you need to use it later, but it's just going to delete the actual plugin. So now as you can see, there's no plugin. So now that we have that, I'm going to assign the sample to mixer track 4, the same track that we exported it from, and I'm just going to right click and do reset tracks to default. And if you're in FL12, you cannot actually do that, and that's the main reason that I upgraded to FL20, because that's a super nice feature that I use literally all the time. Anyway, so now I'm going to put an EQ on this, and I'm just going to EQ out some of the low end a little bit. So now that we have that, everything should be sounding kind of nice together. However, one thing I do want to do with this sub bass is make it a little bit more wider in your ears. So I'm just going to go delay and then do widen, but you can also go in here and do stereo enhancer, and then just do strings preset, and that one also works as well, if not better. But I just like doing the delay because it's like cool. And now since the sub bass is kind of low, to bring out some of the, you know, mid to higher frequencies, well, not really high frequencies because it's a sub bass, But to bring out some of the midder frequencies, what you can do is you can put a Camel Crusher on it, and then I like to use the British Clean preset, and that'll make it just a little bit more distorted. Also, one thing I noticed with the sub bass is within the actual waveform, so we're going to go back into Citrus, and I'm going to make this even more sine wavy rather than being more of a saw wave, because it's kind of got that like sharp edge sound to it, if that makes sense, and I want it to be a little bit smoother. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of an EQ onto this sub bass. So I basically just EQ'd out a lot of the high end and some of the mid frequencies as well. And then I EQ'd out the very low end, because you can't even hear that unless you're like a newborn baby. So now I'm actually going to put on those lo-fi plugins that I was talking about earlier. So I'm going to drag this soft clipper to the bottom, because you always want your soft clipper at the bottom. What I am going to do though is put on two different plugins. I'm going to put on Mgf Time Warp, which is a free plugin, and also Isotope Vinyl, which is a free plugin. And these are both like some of the best lo-fi effects plugins in my opinion, so you should totally check those out if you wish to. But I'm just going to put that on here right now, and then I'm going to also put on Isotope Vinyl, and I think I want Isotope Vinyl to be after the Time Warp, because basically that means the Time Warp is going to hit first, and then the vinyl is going to affect, you know, that sound, and then it's going to soft clip everything. So yeah. Alright, so basically the Mgf Time Warp is going to look like this, and it's going to add that warbly effect that you kind of hear in lo-fi music sometimes. This is an exaggerated version of it. And it also has a little bit of a slowdown, which I'm going to fix as well. But I'm just going to drag these down and then put these more in the middle, and then put down the amount. And now I'm going to mess with the Isotope Vinyl. So once you load up Isotope Vinyl, it looks like this. There's these little knobs here and there. So basically inside of Isotope Vinyl, I just turned everything up just a slight bit. I turned the dust up, and then I turned the amount up for the dust. And then I also put it on a 75 RPM. And that's basically all I'm going to do with this plugin here. Alright, so I think that's pretty good so far. Now what I'm actually going to do is just add some strings with the same chords as this melody, and then I might add, you know, a couple little sounds here and there as well. Alright, so I did quite a few different things with the melody here. I added, you know, a little bit of an abundance of things just to spice everything up. So the first thing I added was in here, I added this little piano, and this is a piano from Spitfire Audio Labs. And Spitfire Audio Labs is one of the best like free VST programs that you can get, and basically that with the piano sounds like this. So yeah, that adds a nice little touch. It adds a nice little bit of high end there. And then I added these strings from Sonatino Orchestra. And these strings are just the second violin sustain preset, and it just sounds like this. And the last two things I added were some guitar. So I added this guitar here. And basically what I did, since this melody is basically just 3 different chords, I just took my guitar and I recorded this D major 7th chord, this C minor 7th chord, this B minor 7th chord, and then that's pretty much it. And then I just chopped them up so that they fit with the chords with the piano, and then, you know, it sounds pretty good all together. And then the last thing I added was this. And that's just a little guitar melody that I recorded. It's nothing crazy, it's pretty much all on the same string. And I just added Azurite, which is a really nice chorus plugin, and I added that on both the guitars, and then I just added some reverb and some EQ. And then with the Sonatina, with the strings, I added a stereo enhancer, and then I put on the For Strings preset, which I showed you guys earlier, and then I added reverb, you know, EQ and stuff as well. Same with the little high-end piano, I added some reverb and some EQ as well. So now what I'm gonna do is take all these bad boys and separate them all out into their own patterns. So the way you do that is you right click and then you just do split by channel, and then right click, split by channel, and now everything's in its own thing. So I can delete all this, drag these down, and now basically if you want to drag everything in all at once, you just click the top one, hit shift, click the bottom one, and then just drag them all in, and now you have all of your stuff in here together. So yeah, basically now I'm just gonna lay out the beat and then we'll be pretty much done with this one. Alright, so I just laid out the beat and now the whole thing looks like this. Pretty much what I did was I just added the piano here at the beginning, and then I brought in the strings, brought in the guitar chords, and then I also added this little tape stop slowdown effect, and I added it right before the drums drop in. And then I added it in 2 other places as well, down here. And then basically I just kept the drums pretty much the same throughout the whole thing. And then I just took out certain melodic parts at certain points. Like this other piano, I took it out after the first 8 bars, and I took it out here as well. But yeah, I just switched it up at different points. And then the one main thing that I did add was this here. And basically that is just the piano sample that I recorded, except for I just chopped it up and, you know, made it into like one of those, you know, old school kind of trap things that they got going on. And, you know, basically that's what I have there. And then I put that here, here, and here. And pretty much, yeah, that's like how I laid out the beat for the most part. And then at the end, I'm just gonna do this little fade out thing. So I'm gonna click right click and then automation clip. And now right click on this thing, do C, and then right click, paste. And now drag this last one down, and now it'll fade out at the end. And now we're pretty much done with the beat. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video today. I hope you guys were able to learn a thing or two, maybe, you know, gather some new information. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. Make sure you guys check out my Instagram, my SoundCloud. Those will be down in the description. Playlist of songs I produce, Discord, all that stuff down there. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.
Feezo.
Turn me up, let's go. Damn, I feel like the man now, yeah. I cannot turn bands down, yeah. Chopper make them stand down, yeah. Got these bitches running wild, yeah. Like a thug in the night. I'ma take you out like a thug in the night.